Sewing twins, Nazi camp experiments.
Doctor, he's furious today. A young girl, Eva, looks up at the doctor. He's furious today, stamping his feet and shouting, which makes many of the youngsters cry. He's angry because 2 of his kids, his prisoners, died before he had a chance to work on them.
I'll be feeling him, bro. Like, why y'all giving me something that's just gonna die that quickly?
He needed all the guinea pigs he could get. Eva has seen things she can hardly comprehend. Soon, she'll witness something that will sear her mind until she's an elderly woman. That is the doctor's attempt to make conjoined twins. Her name was Eva Moses.
You need
Kor,
people like this, you know. You need innovators. You need. Let me stop.
Survivors. A twin herself, she and her sister were experimented on at Auschwitz concentration camp. 2 of her other sisters, as well as her parents, died in the gas chamber. The Nazi doctor was Josef Mengele, a man who would become known as the Angel of Death. We'll tell you a little bit about him before we get to the experiments.
Nickname.
As you'll see throughout this video, he was something of a shapeshifter. During his student days, he was into music and the arts. He was studious, he was bright. He also developed increasingly nationalistic beliefs as he got older.
So he's just like Hitler for real. He was into the arts and now he's into you know what he's into. I don't know if I can say that.
Traditional values characterized by the Volkisch movement. In short, he was racist. That racism would define his entire life. The bright young chap went on to study medicine, showing a particular interest in human genetics and physical anthropology. In case you didn't know, the latter is related to the development of humans through evolutionary history. You can already see how this man began to embrace the Nazi ideology of a superior race. In 1937, he joined the Nazi Party and later became part of the SS, a paramilitary organization which in German was called the Schutzstaffel. He served in the armed forces for a while after the outbreak of the war, later joining the SS Race and Settlement Main Office. This division was tasked with safeguarding the racial purity of those in the SS.
That's what I'm saying, bro. We just need to keep things pure, man. I hate the mixing and matching. You know, like we need to stay on one track. Hold up, I gotta call my white Hispanic girlfriend real quick.
His responsibilities there were to ensure genetic health and also administer genetic health tests. The Nazi Party did not want its own procreating with people it deemed impure. Wives and fiancés of SS members were investigated to ensure this didn't happen.
That's why Hitler rejected me. See, he told me I was fine, but I was wondering, like, okay, if I'm fine, what's going on here? He didn't want impurity. See, he knew my semen like oil, and you know it just spread and yeah.
In genetic superiority, he embraced the study of eugenics, which, if you're not familiar with it, relates to the attempt to create a healthier future generation by condoning selective interbreeding with people who have certain genetic characteristics. The doctor believed he could further his study of genetics by experimenting with humans. All he needed were test subjects, and those he got when he was made chief physician at Auschwitz concentration
it's not
camp
hard to take
in 1943. When he got
Ask Epstein. Why is it so easy to snatch children up nowadays? Like I swear we got cameras everywhere. How is children still going missing? Government, do your fucking job.
Out there, masses of people had already died in the gas chambers. Around 75% of them were those deemed unfit to work. They were mainly women, children, frail, and the elderly. Part of Mengele's job was to select which people went to the gas chamber and which people didn't. The vast majority of the 960,000 Jews that were sent there went to the gas chamber, as did the majority of the Roma and ethnic Poles and the Soviet prisoners of war. Many not.
When I was younger, I was confused how Jewish people would die in the gas chamber, because I was like, my niggas go to the gas chamber every time. That's what they would call their car when they hotbox it, though. So I'm sitting here like, so they can't handle a little weed? Like, what's going on? But, you know, I grew up and then I found out.
Immediately slaughtered were forced to work. They were also experimented on along with the children. Part of Mengele's job was treating sick inmates and Nazi personnel, doing what doctors generally do. He was more than just a demented Nazi archcriminal. One historian wrote, Mengele's outsized reputation as a medical monster is inverse proportion to what is known and understood about what he actually did.
Isn't Germany like the whitest country in the world? I think it's like 90% white people.
They were subjected to deadly air pressure. They were left out in the freezing cold and dangerously heated up. Women had their muscles and nerves removed. Children had limbs removed.
Nigga, why? Nerves removed? Like, what does that even mean? What does a nerve removal even mean?
People were deliberately given deadly blood infections. All manner of indescribable things happened to them. This was at the hands of many different people, but it's Mengelé's name that has stood the test of time. This is mainly down to his experiments on children and his obsession with twins. To us, he was a beast, but he believed he was riding on the cutting edge of medical science. The camp gave him the opportunity.
The nerves in your body? I know, but like I don't know what a nerve looks like. Like if you took a nerve out my body, I don't know what I would be looking at. You feel what I'm saying? If you remove my nerves, I'm not gonna look at it and be like, oh, that's a nerve right there. You know?
Thought were great things, albeit with the parameters of depraved Nazi ideology. In his own words, after the war, he said he didn't invent the camps, he just worked in them. His son even said he couldn't help anyone. On the platform, for instance, what was he to do when the half-dead and infected people arrived? But get this, his son also said the twins owe their lives to him.
It would have been crazy if this is how the zombie outbreak started.
Which may have saved them from the gas chamber. It's now understood that he founded a kindergarten and played violin for the kids there. That's one reason he was sometimes called Uncle by the kids. They couldn't have known about medical experimentation at the beginning. A former inmate doctor later said he could be playful, jumping about to please them. The twin children frequently called him Uncle Peppy. This is what another inmate doctor once said about him. He was capable of being so kind to the children, to have them become fond of him, to bring them sugar, to think of small details in their daily lives, and to do things we would genuinely admire. And then, next to that, the crematoria smoke, and these children tomorrow or in a half hour, he's gonna send them there. Mengele didn't work alone.
Imagine talking to Uncle PP, you loving y'all really messing with each other, and then he's like, yep, now it's cremation time. PP? I thought we were like this.
Far from it. When kids' hearts were injected with chloroform, or when children were purposefully infected with disease, or even when young ones had their eyes injected with dye, he was part of a team, sometimes working under the auspices of Kaiser Wilhelm Institute.
What do y'all think's gonna happen if you inject eyes with dye?
It would be a mistake to blame him for all the atrocities committed in the name of medical science, but when it comes to experimenting on twins, that was certainly his very own sphere. But why twins, you might think? No one's exactly sure, but it's thought that Mengele was interested in learning a few things. He believed twins might teach him more about the inheritance of genes. He was also interested in how twins reacted individually to specific experiments. It's thought
so you know, we have one, let's test this type of dye in this twin's eye, then let's test this type of dye in the other twin's eye. Yes.
The overarching reason for the experiments was simply the Nazis' view that there was a superior race. Some people have said Mengele wanted to understand if there was a possibility of giving what the Nazis thought were racially superior couples more of a chance of having superior twins. Around 200 pairs of twins survived from as many as 15,000 pairs.
Wait, what?
Around 200 pairs of twins survived from as many as 15,000 pairs.
15K?
And their hearts were injected with phenol so they could subsequently be dissected. Survivor Jonah Lax said Mengele removed organs from people without anesthetic, and if one twin died, the other would be murdered. The reason for that was the doctor wanted to know not only how they compared in life, but what happened to each of their bodies after they died. At one point, according to the testimony of an inmate assistant, he killed 14 twins in one night. The testimony read, he injected the Evapan into her right arm intravenously. After the child had fallen asleep, he felt for the left ventricle of the heart and injected 10 cc's of chloroform. He said the twin twitched and died soon after. All 14 went the same way that night. In another case, Mengele took two gypsy twins aged 7 and studied them. They had problems in their joints, which he said was tuberculosis. The radiologist didn't agree. Enraged, Mengele took the twins into another room. When he returned, he said to the radiologist, "You're right, there was nothing." He shot them both and dissected them.
What the fuck? What? That's bullshit. That's BS. That's cheating. That is cheating. This man's like, wait, let's see if you're right. Oh, yeah, it looks like you were.
To that, the twins arguably had the best life of any prisoner at Auschwitz. Not that that was saying much. Those twins had been favorites of Mengele. As one man later said, they were spoiled in all respects, and they fascinated him considerably. Some kids were able to play soccer, and even most were well-fed compared to the other prisoners in the camp. Some of them got to keep their own clothes, as well as the hair on their heads. One twin survivor later said he felt completely elevated, segregated from the hurly-burly of the camp. These reports conflict with others, though. For instance, twins Ephraim and Menashe Reichenberg said they were transported in a packed train. And when the train stopped, they heard the call Zwillinge raus, twins out. They were told to stay in a certain line, and they would stay alive. At the camp, they were stripped, shaved, disinfected, and given prisoner uniforms with the numbers B10506 and B10507. They said there were about 1,000 kids at the time, mostly twins and dwarfs. The boys had noticeably different voices. This piqued the interest of Dr. Mengele. Their necks were injected with an unknown substance in one experiment.
You sound a little different. Let's take a deeper look into that. Give me your neck.
Which led to swelling, high fever, muteness, and a state of exhaustion for several days. Menashe died as a result of the experiments in 1946, after he was freed from the camp. Ephraim later moved to Israel after returning to Budapest to discover all his family was dead. He became a bus driver. Life was okay, but because of the experiments, he had a continual breathing and swallowing problem, which led him to not being able to talk at all. In later life, he told his devastating story through an artificial voice amplifier. All the children were subject cases more than they were humans. Identical twins were always being measured and analyzed. For hours at a time, they had to sit through various procedures, including having material inserted into their spines and spinal taps. This is what Jonah Lack said when she saw that it was her first time to be experimented on in Mengele's lab. I was looking at the whole wall of human eyes.
Oh, what does that mean?
Blue eyes, brown eyes, green eyes. Those eyes were staring at me like a collection of butterflies, and I fell down on the floor. Mengele was obsessed with inheritance of eye color. Lark said she was given injections in her back, but she never knew why. She and many other twins were also injected with the gangrenous condition Noma, after which making some kids very sick killed them. Eva Moses Kaur said she witnessed young boys who had their sex organs removed. She later said she believed it was Mengele's attempt to change this.
At that point, there's no point in living no more. You can take me. Yep, no dingling. Well, here's my life.
Sex of boys. She also said this: a set of gypsy twins was brought back from Mengele's attempt to change the sex of boys. She also said this:
oh, so he's where transgender people came from. Just okay, so I'm not gonna say that. Never mind. So if you're trans, you should support. Let's keep it pushing.
Gypsy twins was brought back from Mengele's lab after they were sewn back to back. Mengele had attempted to create a Siamese twin by connecting blood vessels and organs. The twins screamed day and night until gangrene set in, and after 3 days they died. No one is going to doubt that the twins were horrifically experimented on in those camps, and some of them died, often in agony. But an article published in 2020 by the New York Times asserts that there is as much fact as there is fiction when it comes to Mengele. Here's a snippet from that article. Given his alleged omnipotence, grotesque and untrue accusations that Mengele had attempted to create Siamese twins by sewing together a pair of twins, or that he had attempted to make boys into girls and vice versa, were circulated. That same newspaper back
I want to know how they went by trying to make girls into boys. Did they just like put dingaling where like they sewed up they sewed up the meat curtains and then threw an eggplant on it? Or like, I'm curious. Or did they like make a hole for the eggplant, put it there, sewed up, and then sewed up the, I don't know, man.
1985 told the story that involved Mengele shooting a mother and a child when the mother refused to be separated from him. Mengele was reportedly so mad he had a change of mind and sent all the people he'd previously chosen to survive to be sent to the gas chamber. That certainly sounds like someone capable of other horrors.
Of course.
Were some of the stories exaggerated? Here's another account from Eva Moses Kaur. One of the twins, who was 19 years old, told of experiments involving a set of teenage boys and teenage girls. Cross transfusions were carried out in attempts to make boys into girls and girls into boys. Some of the boys were castrated. Transfusion reactions were similarly studied in the adolescent twins. In 1992, the U.S. Department of Justice released a lengthy report on Mengele, alleging he had done such terrible things and a lot more we haven't discussed today. The report states an exchange of blood was repeatedly made between the individual twins of a pair, adding that some twins died as a result. We could find no mention of experiments.
I bet you this is still happening today. Guess where? Area 51. Like, we already know it's in Area 51. Let us in. There's a reason why we are not allowed there.
Involving sewing twins together. A survivor and camp warden named Vera Alexander can maybe fill in some gaps. She once said to the doctor every day Mengele came, and every day he brought some toys, sweets, chocolates, and new clothes.
Aww.
She also said she witnessed how Mengele had impregnated one twin with the sperm of another twin. He pampered her, and he was there at the birth. Alexander said when he saw only one baby and not twins, he threw the baby in the incinerator and just walked away. Part of Alexander's job was taking care of 50 sets of Romani twins. This is what she said she saw one day. day about one particular pair of twins. Mengele took them away. When they returned, they were in a terrible state. They had been sewn together back to back, like Siamese twins. Their wounds were infected and oozing pus. They screamed day and night. Then their parents, I remember the mother's name was Stella, managed to get some morphine and they killed their children in order to end their suffering. There was also this account from Eva Kor. A set of gypsy twins was brought back from Mengele's lab after they were sewn back to back. Mengele had attempted to create a Siamese twin by connecting blood vessels and organs. She said they screamed day and night until gangrene killed them. These are the only two accounts we can find which talk about Mengele trying to make conjoined twins. The experiments are perhaps the very nadir of what the doctor did. Nonetheless, details about them are very scant. We found more testimony from
people are just crazy.
1961 trial of Adolf Eichmann, a man noted as being a significant influence behind the final solution to the Jewish question. In the testimony, Vera Alexander is asked about Mengele and what experiment she saw him conduct. She tells the judge she saw only one. He asks her what that was, and she replies, there was a set of twins, gypsies, whom he took away one day from the block where I was. That was the Zigeunerlager, the gypsy camp. Some days later, he returned them with veins.
Zigeunerlager. That sounds like a Call of Duty map, zombie map.
In their arms and their backs sewn together. The judge then says he doesn't quite understand. Alexander simply says again he sewed them. The judge asks if they were turned into Siamese twins, to which Alexander said he sewed their arms together. They were already full of pus and full of wounds. She said she didn't know what happened to them since she was transferred to the women's camp after that. Since the accounts don't include many details, we're not sure what really happened to those twins behind closed doors. We also can't be sure what Mengele had intended to discover from the experiments. What we are sure about is those experiments were never going to result in conjoined twins that survived any length of time.
And I know what we're sure of. Mengele he's one crazy man.